Good everyone. My name is Jeremiah Adebi, a graduate student from the Department of Engineering Technology at Eastern State University in the United States. Also on this project are my professors and research committee members. First, I have Dr. Joseph Schechter, who is the chair and principal investigator of this research, and also Dr. Moin Udin. The title of this research is stated Current Practices of Calculating and Utilizing Road Users Cost Calculation in the United States. Here's a construction, as this picture illustrates a typical situation in a construction site, especially in an urban settings. Road users traveling through this construction site or work zone tends to encounter inconveniences such as delay based on reduced speed or idling of vehicle, which can cause frustration, increase in vehicle parts, wears, and consumption of fuel, increased possibility of crashes, increase in emission rate from surrounding vehicles around, and impact to surrounding business. However, these inconveniences which road users faces are not typically given more attention when planning, developing, and awarding either construction and maintenance project contract to contractors. And that is where the concept of road users costs comes in, where road users costs quantifies these inconveniences into monetary values. Important and prominent organizations like the Federal Highway Administration in the United States, which support local and state governments in the design, construction, and maintenance of nation's highway system, have encouraged the construction of consideration of road users costs. While the National Cooperative Highway Research Programs and prominent studies have also emphasized the consideration of road users costs. So based on the studies and literature review of road users costs, we found out that there are generally five component costs estimated to compute road users costs. First, we have the travel delay cost, which represents the cost associated with the lost opportunities because road users have to spend more time on the road. And this cost is estimated based on data sets such as the road users' median annual income, wage compensations, benefit of road users, and the travel type and purpose for road users. Secondly, we have the vehicle operating cost, and it is the additional cost associated with the use of vehicle for a longer period of time in the work zone. And the estimation of this cost is based on the consumption rate and unit cost of operating component of the vehicle, such as the fuel, tire wear, maintenance, repair, and mileage related depreciation. Thirdly, we have the crash cost, and it accounts for the increase in crash rate in the construction work zone. And the cost is estimated based on historical data in terms of the severity and unit costs of the crashes. We also have the emission cost, which accounts for sustainability and pollution rates in the construction zone. And this cost is estimated based on emission rates of pollutants in the work zone and a dollar value to quantify the impact of each pollutant types. And lastly, we have the local and business impact cost, which accounts for loss of revenue of the surrounding business in the work zone. And it's the most challenging cost to quantify because it requires a community survey about travel behaviors of road users. Because for every project, we know that the business impact varies and requires understanding of the revenue of the business in the area to be able to compute the business impact cost. So how do we account for road users cost? Although the concept of road users cost has traditionally been associated with the life cycle cost analysis, and its importance has increased in alternative contracting methods in recent years and mostly used in the A plus B contracting method, whereby the lowest bidder is selected based on lowest bid amounts and daily road users cost with the lowest construction days. Therefore, the goal of this study is to identify the best practices in calculating road users cost in the United States, why findings from this study will be recommended so as to be used to provide improved road users cost calculations. This survey was directed to the 50 State Department of Transportation in the United States by a web-based surveying tool called RedCap, available at Eastern State University. The results of the survey are summarized into the application of road users cost and the road users cost calculation methodology. Now, a total of 37 states responded to the survey questionnaire, and we discovered that 34 states out of the 37 states to calculate road users cost in the United States. In terms of the road users cost calculation, majority of the respondents calculate road users cost during bidding and contracting phase, and most state department of transportation uses the road users cost for early completion incentive and late completion disincentive with further applications to evaluate special contracts. The location, duration, and complexity of the project were the top three factors in determining the inclusion of the road users cost. Although the dollar value of the project might appear to be the primary factor in such determination, but it is not considered as important as the duration, location, and complexity of the project because State Department of Transportation are likely to calculate and consider the road users cost for projects in urban areas and projects that needs to be completed in a shorter time to minimize the impact on road users. In terms of road users methodology, the road users cost calculation methodology vary by states as majority of respondents have their own state specified methodology. However, a part or whole of the methodology for most state Department of Transportation is based on other standard methodologies like the Federal Highway Administration, which, as stated earlier, are a prominent organization that provides a simplified methodology to compute the road users cost. But various inconveniences types and extents will vary by different work zone location in various states, whereby different states have now developed their own methodology to compute their road users cost. In terms of further methodology, most respondents prefer and uses the spreadsheet-based tool more than other tools, as the spreadsheet-based tool provides the ease to update and adjust data. None of the respondents prefer the desktop tool because it is not flexible enough to update data unless you install. Then when you want to update, you uninstall, then install again, and that might be stressful to engineers in the Department of Transportation. Now, based on the components, most respondents indicated that the delay cost and the vehicle operating cost are currently included in their road users cost calculation methodology. These two components are also considered essential by more than half of the respondents because the two components are the largest components in terms of the total road users cost calculation. In terms of the vehicle, the local business impact, emission cost, crash cost are considered somewhat important by many respondents, as less than a quarter of the respondents included such components in their road users cost calculation methodologies. This is most likely because of the lack of a well-established methodologies and required data to quantify such costs. So to the recommendation, as stated earlier, that based on the findings, we recommend improvement to be considered in future methodology, which is to be developed by the research team or Department of Transportation. First, we recommended the inclusion of more components like the crash cost, emission cost, and the business impact cost in the methodology, as most of the state departments of transportation currently don't include a lot of components. They include only the value of time and the vehicle operating cost component. But the inclusion of more components will establish an accurate and standard road users cost. Road users can be rest assured that most of the inconvenience they face have been accounted for. Secondly, we recommend the use of updated data set for each component, as some of the data set for different components are updated annually or periodically by most of the prominent organizations. And this act of updating will help to derive more consistent and accurate road users cost values. The third recommendation is to develop the road users cost methodology to variation based on location of the work zone. For example, the value of time for a rural location will differ from that of an urban location, as the annual income, wages, and compensation will vary for the value of time for the different location, and even talking about the emission rates, which would also vary in the location based on how intensified the work zone situation is. So in conclusion, road users cost is an important component that should be considered for project that causes significant inconvenience to road users while evaluating contracts, bids, or liquidated damages. Also, State Department of Transportation should have a consistent method in which to give the same result in the bidding of a contract. Because if it is not consistent, it could result to dispute and or legal issues or legal actions because it might be misleading in approving contract bids, as contractors might argue that they would have easily won a bid if the road users cost was consistent. And we know this is a big deal for State Department of Transportation. And lastly, the methodology should balance the ease of obtaining data, making it easy to compute more components and achieve accurate road users cost. Because most of the State Department of Transportation argue that the methodology um, is not the methodology. The components in the methodology are not easy to to estimate because the data are so hard to get. And that has been the issue of them leaving out some of the components. But making the methodology easy and balanced to obtain data easily would make the road users cost components and methodology more accurate and more easy to generate. Thank you.